had other commitments as well. But okay, we appreciate that.
This is live, right? Yeah. Okay, good. So, small business is, actually attracted me to this office, and one of the reasons that I ran for Lieutenant Governor was to really be an advocate for small business. And I've had the pleasure to work with many people that are in this room, and while the governor's here, and my dad always said, if you don't have something good to say, don't say anything at all. Well, I can say that the staff that is involved and surrounding around the regulations and the issues that have to do with small business, I just think their work ethic is second to none. So I appreciate the fact that the governor has, kind of brought us together and allowed us to interact in a way with Mackie and Liz and others. It's just impressive. So I think that gives us hope that we're going to move in the right direction. I couldn't, say a few words to the business community here without acknowledging that. Our theme of the office is Advanced Rhode Island. And I've met with many people that are in this room here talking about ways that we can do that, either through the executive order that the governor signed in terms of regionalization, municipalities, working with the cities and towns and the mayors and the municipal leaders that I've worked with for 12 years as I was mayor, and talking about things, including what was brought up today, which was moving from a 3-year property revaluation cycle to a 5-year revaluation cycle, which was going to save taxpayers in the state about well over $1 million a year. And Connecticut's on a 5-year. And then when we were talking to Massachusetts about the tax appeal board that they have, that's one central tax appeal board. And as a business owner that worked on a tax appeal on a building that we had in Woonsocket, it took us 10 years to get through. This tax appeal board in Massachusetts actually brings you through within 24 months. And it eliminates the local tax appeal boards, which is regionalization. So we're going to be working on that as one of the particular things. The other things is that we've convened businesses now a couple times with the governor's staff to talk about how we can earn an A. And it can happen through a lot of big ideas and small ideas. And we've run the gamut in our office where we helped, for instance, they put a note, took out parking in front of 2 full blocks in Broad Street in Providence, and without really talking to the business owners and how that would actually impact the businesses. And we were able to work with the state DOT, with the bus company, with the city, and within 2 weeks, those lines were agreed that we were erased and put the parking back, and actually let 7 businesses survive that were going to go out of business. Small thing. Senator Ropakis had six people in the beauty industry in our office this week, and along with a member of the governor's staff, Edward Gowden, and solved the problem. But yet, also, I understood that 30 regulated businesses were eliminated in the state through the governor's leadership and through the help of the General Assembly. And yet only one or two that was enough pushback to probably reverse that and move forward on that. So that's how you can work to make things happen. I can't leave here without telling you one quick anecdote, I guess, on the education issue. So during the hour that we've met here, if we hit Massachusetts levels and outcomes in our schools, the working families, union and non-union in the state of Rhode Island, would have earned $1 million. That's $40 million a month. It's as much as $2 billion a year. So we need to be careful about not stopping the innovations that are currently in place and that are helping us drive and show that we can hit Massachusetts levels, and we're showing that in schools that throughout the state, but we're also not showing it in many schools. And if you showed a blueprint of the by dot every district in Massachusetts, and that was a blue kind of a color, and then you put every dot for a Rhode Island school and district, and that was a red color, the wave of blue would far exceed on every single measurement on low income, non-low income, white, black, Hispanic, and every single measurement that you could make. I don't know an area that actually could add $1 million during a working day, an hour, $8 million a day. Other than that, and we need to be diligent about moving that forward. Last thing I would say on the energy issue, through working again with the governor's staff and through the people at the Division of Public Utilities, They're going to launch a website that every business person in this room should be aware of, and any residential person that's paying an electric bill in the state of Rhode Island. A website's going to be launched through our insistence, but also through the cooperation of Tom Ahern and his staff at the division. That's going to put up, just like Pennsylvania, which drove them almost to 40% of the resident ratepayers in Pennsylvania take advantage of the competition, because there are ways that you can use the competition in a way that actually makes sense. We're hovering around somewhere between 7 and 8%. 8 and 10 small businesses don't take advantage of it. Now you have a very simple way. Go online, put in your kilowatts that you burn in a month, and it'll show a list of 8 to 10 companies that actually have been able to pre-purchase their energy, and it allows you to determine exactly what you're going to save. Last year, we were prepared for every point. It probably would have saved ratepayers in the state of Rhode Island $500,000. So this year, it'd be a little less because there wasn't, year over year on 2014 to 2016, there's still a 20% amount that we're paying more on the utilities, and we're 48th in the country right now, and that's why hearing the governor and hearing the speakers talk about capacity, it is about capacity, but it's also using the tools that you have currently in your hands right now to take advantage of the things that the General Assembly put in place 17 years ago with the deregulation and pushing forward competition, and empowering the Public Utility Commission to represent us as ratepayers and not necessarily just the shareholders from National Grid. So there's a lot to be working on. I think Congressman Makeley, who I knew back then, shot some basketball with him and had our business up in Woonsocket, and now is the president of this group. I am visiting each and every university. The general office has had a nice lunch at Johnston and Wales in their kitchen, and I've been meeting with every university right now, and I'll be at Bryant University, I think, sometime next week to meet with the entrepreneurs that actually come to Rhode Island, live in Rhode Island, come from Rhode Island, from around the world, and we need to ask them to stay. Just plain and simple. We need to ask them to stay. We need to ask them, give them reasons why to stay, like the work that's being done here, and also ask them why, what they need to stay, but we need to ask them to stay. Thank you so much, Mark, for your leadership.
General Treasurer.
All right.
Thank you for lowering the age. We really do appreciate it.
Do my best. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. As I look at this room, I see a very impressive, distinguished, committed group of people, but I also see a hungry group of people, so I'm going to try my best to wrap this up quickly. I do want to thank my colleagues in government, the governor, the speaker, the chairman, the lieutenant governor, all the reps and senators and municipal officials who are here today. I think it's fair to say that the past year in Rhode Island, there has been more done on the economic development front in terms of new policies, new initiatives, probably than in any other year in my lifetime. And that's a great credit to the passion and the commitment of the folks who I'm on this stage with and others who are in the audience. I also want to recognize Bryant University for welcoming us. I'm new at this, but I've been at Bryant a number of times already. This is not just serving students here and helping to prepare the workforce, but also really serving as a great convener of our state's policymakers, and it's been a very useful resource to all of us. And then finally, thanking those of you in the crowd who are employers, who are on the front lines and are doing the hard work of growing our economy. Our job is to make all of your jobs easier, and that's what we are endeavoring to do. So I ran for treasurer on the platform that I wanted to use this office to promote economic growth and development. And I'm going to briefly tell you a few things that we've done already to help move the ball forward from our office, and then a few things that I plan on working on in the coming year. First, our office developed a plan that was passed by the General Assembly, signed into law by the governor, to expand the old Clean Water Finance Agency into the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. What we are trying to do with this is address two problems. On the one hand, we have huge unemployment in the building and construction trades. On the other hand, as has been mentioned many times already today, very high energy costs in Rhode Island. The latest numbers I saw from this summer showed that we had the second highest price for commercial electricity in Rhode Island of any state in the country, after only Hawaii. So when you have these dual challenges of high unemployment in the trades and high energy costs, the opportunity that presents itself is you put people back to work on projects to make our state more energy efficient, to decrease our demand for energy. I'm proud to say that since this infrastructure bank plan was passed back in June, we've made excellent progress on implementation. There are 2 new programs that you should know about that will be resources that are coming online this spring. The first new one is called the Efficient Buildings Fund. This is a fund to fund energy retrofits and renewable projects for municipal buildings, for schools, for town halls, libraries, firehouses. Every dollar that a city or town saves on their energy costs is money that they have to spend on fixing roads or on lowering those property taxes and so on. The implementation of that program is going well. We've already given out dozens of free energy audits to public buildings all across the state in the last 2 months. Loan applications are coming in, and the first money is going to be going out the door in the May to June timeframe. The second new program there is called the Commercial PACE program, and this is a program of low-cost energy efficiency loans for commercial property owners, for factories, for warehouses. There are already some very good incentive programs run by National Grid and others to help with small energy efficiency upgrades, changing light bulbs and changing windows. This is for the big stuff. This is for those solar panels on the roof. This is for those envelope-level improvements to the building. And the good news is that because we have been successful in bringing federal funds and private capital to the table, we're going to be seeing millions of dollars of projects happening over the next year without a single dollar coming out of the state budget. So I'm very proud of that. Stay tuned, more to come. Briefly, looking ahead, there's a couple of issues that I want to focus on going forward. In the area of workforce development, our office manages the College Bound Fund. This is a tremendous resource to help Rhode Island families save for college. Interesting fact about the College Bound Fund, not only does it help thousands of Rhode Island families save for college in a tax-efficient way, we also market this program out of state. And in fact, more than 90% of Rhode Island College Bound Fund account holders are from outside Rhode Island. There are twice as many Californians with Rhode Island College Bound Fund accounts as there are Rhode Islanders. And we're able to charge a very small 1/10% fee just to the out-of-state folks, which is now being used to fund scholarships at Rhode Island's colleges and universities, about $8 million a year worth of scholarships. We're going to continue that program. We're going to grow it. We just hired a great new investment manager, Invesco, that's famous for their Power Shares brand. It's going to be an exclusive relationship where they're going to be the only 529 plan that they're selling nationally. We can continue to grow that, continue to bring in that revenue, which will go right to scholarships at universities like Bryant and our other Rhode Island institutions of higher learning. Looking forward, we've changed our focus a bit in the last few weeks at Treasury, and we've begun focusing more on improving efficiency in government. I was invited last month to speak at the Senate Oversight Committee on the topic of debt management and debt oversight. We have over 100 entities in Rhode Island with the authority to issue public debt. I say over 100 because there's never been a list kept of all of them, and we're still trying to figure out the exact number, which is a scary thing. Some of those entities are very well regulated, have plenty of oversight, do a very good job, but there are others where the oversight and the analysis of the debt that they put out is lacking. So we're going to continue working in the coming year to present a plan to improve the oversight of debt management, especially at the quasi-public level, where often that oversight is not substantial. We were also asked last night to present at the House Oversight Committee on the topic of tax credits, and especially finding ways that we can make our tax credit system even more efficient by limiting the role of private brokers and other private parties so that as much of the benefit as possible goes to the actual project that we're trying to support. And then last, I also anticipate working in the coming year on the access to capital issue, especially for small businesses. The Rhode Island Treasury, I believe, is one of the largest customers of banking services in the state. At any given point during the year, we are managing about between $200 million and $1 billion of cash deposits at banks. As a state, we're also a big customer of fee-based financial services. And using our status as a large customer in the banking world, I am looking forward to working with our local lending community to find ways that we can work together to increase the availability and the affordability of capital, particularly to our smaller businesses. So that's what I'm working on. I'm doing my very best to keep our pledge of using the Treasurer's Office to promote economic growth and economic development. We've made good progress so far. There's more good to come on the horizon. And I'll just end where I began by thanking all of you for the work that you do. Our job is to make your job easier, and I know that we're all committed to that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And on the issue of the pensions, Treasurer, I'm in with that because that's something that we have tried to do for a very long time, is that synergy on small business loans and the utilization of part of pension funds to invest in Rhode Island.
I didn't say the pension, but
I understand.
Yeah,
Rhode Island funds.
other accounts. Yeah,
I understand. We'll give you some information on what other states do as well. Mr. Speaker, this event has been tremendously supported by you over the last years that you've been involved. Without your encouragement, I think we wouldn't have the number of reps that have come today. 21 reps from the House, tremendous. And their participation in the committees was critical. I have to tell you that Lynn Urbani is phenomenal. You have given her the instructions to work with us, and we've worked with the members of the House. I can't thank you enough for your commitment to the small business community, to this summit, and hopefully, as I say, I'm coming to the end of a mediocre federal career, hopefully at some point in time in the next 5 years. But I think it's critical to have your support because we wouldn't be able to do this without you. Ladies and gentlemen, the Speaker of the House.
Thank you, Mark. It's always a pleasure to work with you, and I'm glad to report that when I left, I called my office and I fast-tracked your bill. So
thank you very much.
You can, in fact, perform the marriage. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you for everybody being here. We do listen, learn, take a lot of good ideas from this every year, and you know, the reality is that myself and the governor will be sitting down very soon, and we'll talk about things that came out of this event, and a lot of the things, as they have in the past, will end up in the budget, and we'll try to move things forward. So your input is invaluable, and I want to chat a little bit about that with you in a few minutes. But first, I want to recognize my colleagues that are here. As Mark indicated, we certainly encourage folks to come, and they don't need a lot of encouragement. I'm so proud of my House colleagues. They're engaged. They want to be here. They want to learn. They want to work hard, and they want to get to work and serve the community in great ways. And our record has been very good lately as far as a business is concerned, and improving our economic climate. And it's the credit of the folks that I'm going to mention in a few minutes, as well as the rest of my House colleagues, and it is certainly not accomplished by one person. Representative Dave Coughlin, Chairman Cale Keeble, Representative Deb Ruggiero, Representative Robert Lancia, Representative Mary Duffy Messia, Representative Jean-Philippe Barros, Representative Joe Almeida, Representative Grace Diaz, Chairman Joe McNamara, Representative Carol McEntee, Representative Catherine Kazarian, Representative Mike Morin, Chairwoman Patricia Serpa, who you all know, Representative Joe Solomon, Representative Lauren Carson, Representative Eileen Norton, Representative Teresa Tanzi, Representative Mike Marcello, Representative Carlos Tabone, Representative Robert Phillips, Representative Stephen Ucci, and Representative Kathy Fogarty, as well as former Representatives Doug Jablinski and Frank Ferry. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your assistance, your hard work on behalf of the House and the citizens of the state of Rhode Island. I want to thank Ron Makeley for hosting this great event every year. It's always a pleasure to be here at Brown University. And I want to thank him for being such a leader and everybody at the university who makes this place a place that we're proud of. And I want to point out that we're proud of Brown because of Bryant. We're proud of Brown, too. We're proud of Bryant because they've invested intelligently in the university. They're growing it. They're moving it forward. They're employing past practices, and making it efficient, but yet growing it. And the effort, the investment, the thought process has got it national ranking. And I bring that up because too often in Rhode Island we don't do that. And I'll get back to that in a few minutes. I want to recognize Chairwoman Serpa. You all know her. She's the chair of our Small Business Committee, and she works so well with all of you folks, and she's great. And Mark is correct. Lynn Urbani, I just think she's wonderful. I joke with her all the time. If you're here, Lynn, you know I think you're wonderful. I will say that publicly, but not privately. I mean, she's a tremendous resource. She's my liaison to so many groups. She's super intelligent, and she could basically accomplish anything. So I don't know what else I can say about her than that. And she's got a great personality. And she works hard. So other than that, I don't know. But thank you, Lynn.
She's
very
sitting
much.
right there, Mr.
Where
Speaker.
is she?
She's right there. Wave, Lynn.
There she is. She's hiding. Thank you, Lynn. You know, I'm going to just briefly address some of the things that were brought up, and so you get a little bit of my thought process. But my thought process is just preliminary in a lot of this, and we'll discuss and collaborate. Healthcare is very important, very, very important. I'm back in 2006 when I was running the first time. I remember telling a reporter that we're going to take a comprehensive look at health care and try to make it more efficient. And, you know, I don't know that we've accomplished anything since 2006. And there's a lot of efforts to work on that, and we'll continue to do so. But it's very, very complicated. You don't want to put yourself at a disadvantage to bigger states. You don't want to stifle innovation. So it's hard to artificially control costs, yet and we want great health care delivery to all of our citizens, yet you want it to be affordable. So that's a complex thing to tackle, and you know, we'll keep working on that, but a lot of those ideas are going to have to come from you folks, and you know, we'll look at the specifics of that, and I say that very humbly. We need expertise on this, and we need to be able to do something with health care. We've got to wrap our arms around it, but it's very technical, and it's very difficult to do. And, you know, unfortunately, I will say health care is oftentimes addressed from an ideological standpoint, and I think it just has to be addressed from a management standpoint. It's a numbers game, and we have to be able to deliver services as efficiently as possible. So we have to find ways to, in fact, do that. Our TDI system, we should look at that, and, you know, we will. I don't know where the ultimate conclusion will be, but we have to look at that. Energy. You know, I think I've been an advocate working with the Office of Energy Resource. I think we have to expand our traditional energy sources, and we're doing so somewhat in Burrillville, and I certainly encourage that, because we have to provide traditional energy as cheaply and efficiently as possible for our ratepayers. However, the world is changing, and we have to look at renewables and have to encourage the growth of renewables. So, you know, some people want just the carbon-based, some people want just the renewables. I take a practical viewpoint, and I encourage both, and we'll grow them both as fast as we can and let the economy and the marketplace play a little bit of a role. But as far as I'm concerned, we're going to encourage the expansion of all forms of energy so that our citizens and our businesses have the cheapest energy available to them, so that we can grow and thrive as a community, and that our citizens can heat their homes and power their homes as efficiently and cheaply as possible. Relative to a lot of the tax consideration, the estate tax, we raised the exemption from a low 921 with the cliff to $1.5 million without a cliff, and ran out of money. So that's something that we're going to now look at some more, because we do have to balance our budget. But that's something I've got my eye on. Great suggestions. Let's see what we can do, and let's collaborate and work together on looking at that. Family farms, small businesses, the exempting, great ideas. It's something that I certainly want to look at, and it seems something that potentially could be feasible. So we'll continue that conversation. Property taxes. Property taxes are a problem. Not necessarily because they're high in some communities, but they are. But also they're not predictable. And the reevaluations that occur cause concerns in the market. You go to other states and there are cranes putting up new buildings everywhere, and we're not doing so. So you get a little more money from your current property tax payers, but because you're doing so, nobody else is comfortable coming in, and you're hurting yourself long term. So we have to look at making that predictable, because what I hear from investors that want to come to the state and our capital city, they recognize the property tax is a little bit high, and that's something we have to work on, but they can work with that. They can't work with high taxes and lack of predictability, and that keeps national money out of the state and out of our capital city. So that's something that we absolutely have to work on and can work on. And the problem wasn't created overnight, as the governor said, and it's not going to be fixed overnight, but it's something that we're going to give some attention to. The letters of good standing, that seems pretty easy to fix. I think that what we'll do there is look at best practices and give that a little bit of attention. There's no need to be an outlier on certain things. What I can tell you from the Speaker's office, when particular problems are brought to my attention, we address them, we get involved, and we help businesses. The Commerce Corporation does the same thing. The governor, the lieutenant governor, the general treasurer, the Senate's office, we all do the same exact thing, but the system has to work so that you don't need intervention from everybody. And there has to be a better climate out there so that people feel comfortable that they can invest their money and there won't be artificial roadblocks and friction, and that's something that we'll continue to work on. There's a lot of moving parts in that. So, it's easy to fix one, but some are municipal, some are state, and they're spread out. So that's something that we'll continue to work on, and we absolutely have to work on. Regulations, that's a difficult issue. It's something we've been working on. We've improved our regulatory process, but you almost have to change the culture. We have to want to do business more efficiently, and everybody in line along the way has to agree. And you've got to get rid of the friction point. So that's something that we will continue to work on. We're not where we have to be. Regarding the weddings, very quickly, you do have to get a bill, but there's no fee. Every proposal otherwise required a fee, and I refuse to impose a fee on people getting married. So that's one of the reasons we've never done that. And they're relatively easy to get the bills passed. So if the General Assembly can intervene and provide a service to our constituencies for free, no fee, I prefer that means. And I indicated that I was going to double back and talk about how the great investment in Bryant University made it a leading university nationally, and why that's important. It's important because Brown looked prospectively, they invested, they grew, they learned, they improved, they made themselves better. That's what we have to do as a state. Forget any individual issue. We have to make ourselves better as a state. And, I say that to you folks because you folks are the smart people. You're business people. You're very educated. You're intelligent. You work in the economy each and every day. Not the only smart people, but this is a very intelligent group. You work with your people. You know where the problems are. You know where the problems aren't. And I often look to folks like you to be part of the solution and to help us. So I'm looking at the survey on the tolls, and the governor's not here, and she didn't bring it up, but since it's her plan, I'll bring it up. I start off, and I'm the guy who put the brakes on it, and I'm the person who insisted on an economic impact study, and we have the results of that study. And I'm, someone working with the governor and the Senate president at trimming it down. But you have to kind of tell us what you want. Do you want to have the best community like Bryant University that invested and made itself better and grew itself and achieved something? Or do we just want to be a society of no? Because, so you take, the problem with this is we're small. You take a fresh well that's going to produce water for a community for 100 years. and you drop a drop of poison in it, you contaminated that well, it's done forever. The problem in Rhode Island is negative voices have a disproportionate impact on how we move forward. And there's always a no out there. And no's are good. You know, no's from the business community caused me to put the brakes on roadworks and caused us to really think about it over an entire summer. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. So I start off with the conclusion, or with the fact, objective fact, that we have the worst roads and bridges in the country. I remember that since I was a kid. And according to this poll, 43 and 38 said either poor or very poor. So that's 80% of you believe that we have very, poor infrastructure. Someday it's going to be unsafe infrastructure, and you all have children. I'm the Speaker of the House today. The bridge is not going to fall down in my term of speakership. But I don't want to be on a couch someday watching TV, seeing a car go through a bridge and saying I could have done something about it. We all have children out there. We all look to the future of our community. So our bridges are poor or very poor. That's unacceptable. I start off with the premise that that's absolutely unacceptable. And I guess we give a bad grade to the Department of Transportation that they may have earned or not earned. That's probably a fair critique. But in fairness to the governor, she's revamped the entire department, and the new director, Alviti, is doing a great job in trying to move the place forward so that our monies are invested and our infrastructure is improved appropriately. So thank you, Governor, for that. And then I have a question that the governor is proposing a roadworks program that is planning to assess tolls on large trucks in an effort to pay for more than $1 billion. So it's a loaded question. More than $1 billion in revenue bonds to fix our roads and bridges. From what you understand, about the plan, would you support it? I probably would have said no also to that question as it's phrased, but because we're not at $1 billion bond and we're trimming it down. We've been working to trim it down. The problem with this sometimes is we formulate an opinion before we see a final product. And our default tends to be no, so we never become as great as a state as Bryant University is as a university. 23% in light of the fact that we have 80% believe the bridges are in bad shape, 23% said they would support the tolling plan, 30 would not, 42 need more information, and 4% is unsure. More negative than positive. It may be fair, maybe the rollout wasn't as good as it should be, and the borrowing was too high. And as I've indicated, I want to reiterate, I'm the person who had concerns, so I put a stop to the plan. This one concerns me. What impact do you think tolling plan will have on the Rhode Island economy? Very positive, 5%. 14% somewhat positive, 27% neutral. Somewhat negative, 24%, and very negative, 29%. So most people think it'll have a very negative impact on our economy. I'm not an economist. I do have a degree in accounting, and I'm an attorney by trade, so I broadly understand economics, but I'm not an economist. But we got an economic impact study. It came back very positive. If we don't listen to our experts, how do we move forward? Why is that so negative when the economic impact study said it'll grow our state growth, our state income, and it'll have a very positive impact on our economy? Like every plan, positive and negative outcomes, some winners, some losers, and no matter what you do, that's going to be the case. But overall, the impact on our economy objectively is very positive. That's what the experts say. So that concerns me because we have to, I know no other way to go forward but to listen to experts. And by the way, after we got the economic impact study, I brought it to an economist to say, verify that this is okay. And I didn't get the answer back that it wasn't. Remy is a good outfit, I was told, and generally speaking, it's a good economic impact study, but consider this, 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 and this. So I listened to the expert, the economist, and that's what we've done. This one concerns me a lot also. Currently, the proposal calls for tolling only large trucks. Are you concerned that tolls will eventually be expanded to other vehicles? 65 said yes, 23 said no, 11 are unsure. The most accurate group there is the 11, and I'm going to tell you why. I've said, while I'm Speaker, no tolls on cars. I pledge that. No tolls on cars, and it's going to be in the legislation, so the governor can't do it unilaterally. I don't know what the next speaker is going to say, but I know the political climate. I don't think the next speaker is going to do it, whoever that may be, or the next governor, whoever that may be. But beyond myself, I can only speak for myself. I don't know. So all of these folks that think it's going to happen, please give me a crystal ball, because I need the number for tomorrow's Powerball.
That's a lot of money, too.
You know, and that goes back to no. Our default is no. Someone's going to do a bad thing. Someone in government is going to do a bad thing. We don't appreciate our government. We're not proud of our government, and we don't appreciate all the folks that are here working so hard on our behalf. Somehow we're cynical about it. They're not in other communities, but they have good infrastructure. And by the way, the proposal's too big, too much borrowing, there's concerns with this, so we've been working with the governor's staff, and I think we're going to have a proposal that most people are very comfortable with at the end. But I've got to start off with the proposition, if I'm going to do my job the way I think I have to, if we have what everybody believes are the worst roads and bridges in the country, we can't let that stand. A default of no means we're stuck with the worst roads and bridges forever. That can't be. So I'm going to stay after this session is done, and I want all of your wonderful ideas, because if you don't like the tolling proposal, but which, by the way, shifts costs away from Rhode Islanders to out of state, and that's something that I like a lot. Some folks talk about the gas tax, but that's borne entirely by Rhode Islanders. And when the price of energy goes back up, which eventually it will, inevitably, will be an outlier and will be much higher than Mass and Connecticut, which is something that you should never be. So my goal is that we're always competitive with our neighboring states, and I think that best serves the economy. But we have a problem that we have to deal with. And some folks say, just no, take it out of your current budget. Well, I'm going to tell you where that takes us, and please forgive me. I'm not trying to lecture, but this is important to us as a society, and since you are the smart folks that talk to a lot of people, I need you to go out there and become a partner and communicate this stuff. We have to invest, and we have to do it in such a way that's going to make us competitive with our neighboring states. But we've let our infrastructure deteriorate to the point that it's the worst, because we always relied on our current budget to do it, and there's always other priorities. We have a structural deficit in the state, and it gets bigger every year, and we're trying to trim it down. But as we've done that, you impact other things. You know, we've reinvented Medicaid. It's putting stress on our hospitals. Something we have to do, but everything you do stresses something else. And you can't wave a magic wand and find $50, $60 million in the budget. Not when the deficit gets bigger every year. And that's why we have the worst roads and bridges. We've always borrowed. We've never had a mechanism to repay. The gas tax is just not enough. It yields us less money every year. Cars are getting smaller. I'm not sure if it's less every year. Don't check me on that fact, but cars are getting smaller, so we use less gasoline. And the price of repairs gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's not going to work, despite the fact that it's easy to say take it out of the budget, and that seems to be where some people want to take it out of. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. You're not going to get the majority of people year after year to commit to do that without grossly affecting services that we all rely upon. You can say it, and it sounds good because it's a big budget. Most of it's not discretionary, by the way. Most is federal money committed to certain places. Very few places you could actually go to in the budget to find money. It's not going to happen. Anyone telling you that, have them in writing, give it to you, and then take it to me, and I'll let you sit down with my fiscal advisor. It's not going to happen. I'm telling you as honestly and directly as I can. So, if that's not going to work, and we know where that leads us to the worst roads and bridges in the country. What is the solution? From my perspective, I've been saying I accept the toll proposal because it shifts cost out of state, and they cause some of the wear and tear. And we have to trim it down, and we're going to trim it down considerably so the interest cost goes way, way down, and the risk is out of the equation and so forth. We're going to make it better, but there's going to be a tolling proposal unless someone in this room or somewhere else can give us a better idea. And I say that very sincerely. I want all good ideas, and I please bring them to me because this is a very contemporary issue. But please don't say without some basis that you believe cars are going to be done in the future. Gantries are going to change in the future. In 15, 20 years, they'll be easier and cheaper to put up. If we put up gantries for trucks today, if they want to toll in 20 years, if a different governor or speaker wants to toll us, they're not going to use these gantries. They're going to be antiquated. They're going to have cheaper, better, more efficient ways of doing it because technology is always changing. These gantries don't lead. And I'm going to say one more thing, and then I will conclude because I know I've taken way too much time. If we don't do something now, we're going to have an emergency situation. And if you have an emergency situation in the future, I can almost assure you the odds of having to toll cars is going to go up exponentially. It's just going to have to because they're going to have to deal with an emergency situation, and then you're going to have to take revenue sources from wherever you can. Right now, we could do it intelligently with positive impact on the economy and so forth. So, I'm going to apologize for taking so much time, but I needed to go through the analysis because I need to put the options out there. And it's for you to decide what the best way to go forward and how to receive my thoughts. And I want your feedback because it's not my proposal. I don't think it's ideal. It's not perfect. It's far from perfect. But there's no perfect way to fix things. Sometimes we judge against the perfect. We want perfect infrastructure, but we don't want to put the money in. That's not going to happen. There's no perfect way. We have to take imperfect solutions, the best imperfect solution we have, so that we have better infrastructure. So I'm going to challenge you. After having listened to that, I'm sorry you had to, please think about it and communicate with me, whether today or in the near future. Reach out to my office, reach out to my staff, reach out to Lynn or Bonnie, and give us your ideas to move our infrastructure forward, realistic ideas. And when you're out there communicating with people, rather than just say no, because you are very free not to like the tolling proposal. I'm not a huge fan, but I think it's the best of unpleasant options considering where we are. Try to elicit ideas out of people. Rather than no, 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 what's a better way to do it? The governor has this idea. The speaker's inclined to go along with a much better version of it, but let's give them better ideas and see what we can come up with. So that's your challenge. Can't just say no. You have to bring us ideas, and I'm going to be up here afterwards, but our staff is always available. Thank you very much. You, the small business community, our economic climate will always be a very significant considerations. My mantra when I became Speaker was jobs in the economy. It has never changed. My focus has never changed, and we will work together to move our economy forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And now, Senator DuPont. Ladies and gentlemen, if we could just hold you in just for a couple more minutes.
I know that I am now holding you between conclusion and lunch, so I will be brief. But Mark, thank you very much for your leadership, President Makeley, as well for facilitating this taking place at Bryant. I want to recognize Senators Pichardo, Metz, Miller, Senator-elect Pagliarini. I know Senators Gee and Lynch were here earlier. and I'd like to thank the Senate President for asking me to step in today. I think what was discussed today, not just from the folks that came up here and presented your opinions and concerns, but also a frank and candid discussion by the panelists up here as well. I was thinking as I was hearing things, this conversation and this input and this solicitation of input, for those of you that have been around for 20 or 30 years, that really wasn't the case that long ago. And my particular experience was when we did the corporate tax reform. We looked at it. Much of the input came from folks like yourselves, specific to C corporations, but we went through a process. We went through what I would consider to be a prudent process, and I think we got great feedback and ended up with a sound outcome, at least an outcome that doesn't penalize corporations from expanding their footprint and hiring people in the state, which is what we had before. Now, we understand, and I certainly understand, that not just the Rhode Island economy, but the national economy is built on and built by small businesses. But without accurate information, without concrete data, and without expert input, a lot of the things that we would not, that we've accomplished would not have been possible. And I think when you look at whether it be the personal income tax, the corporate tax reform, the estate tax, the regulatory reforms that have taken place, much of what ended up in those proposals came from many of you. And so I think it's a point that should not be underemphasized, in that your input, your participation, and when you're solicited for that input, it certainly has an impact. I believe it's going to continue to have an even greater impact. But all the good things that we've talked about here today, I think, are testament to those contributions making their ways into what we all want, and that is to improve the state. The Senate's priorities are going to continue to be and to build upon some of the initiatives that we've worked on in collaboration with our colleagues in the House, in collaboration with the administration. We're actively participating. For example, we've talked a lot about education, and not only the delivery of education, but the funding of education. We're actively participating in the working group now that's looking at in great detail the education funding formula and talking about realities that we have to address if we want to move forward. They're not all popular. They're not all things that everyone's going to agree upon, but we have to recognize what our challenges are and build upon those to move forward. Continue to build on the regulatory reform. I was chatting earlier with Marie Ganem, our policy director. In my business, we moved our office location a few years ago, and we ended up building out a brand new space. And the contractor that we hired, given that I'm a planner, I said, listen, I need to have a general idea of time frames here so we can make this move effectively with as minimal interruption as possible. And the contractor happens to do work all over the state and outside of the state, and he said, I can't give you a time frame, because each municipality interprets the codes differently, has their own regulations on top of what's already federal and state regulations. So I'd love to give you a time frame, but I can't. And we continue to hear, unfortunately, that's the case. And we've got a number of communities that are participating in the electronic permitting process, which was one of the Senate's initiatives dating back to 2010. But what we'd like to see, once the kinks are worked out, is that every community not only is on that system, but that we can move toward adopting a more uniform set of rules, regulations, and requirements, so that, as was mentioned earlier, folks aren't getting different answers and different interpretations wherever they happen to knock at our cities and towns. Workforce development's another theme that we've continued to talk about, and tied directly to education. One thing that I want to make point, and I guess to add also to what the Treasurer said, one of the things that we have taken, I believe, to be a prudent approach with the House in the budget process, is to try to incorporate as much as possible, predictability, and that continues to be a theme that we hear from all of you. When we're going to make investments, if we're going to expand, we need to have some idea of predictability. And we've been conservative in a way in trying to make sure that we not only pass what's an effective budget, but also try to be prudent. Let's not count on anticipated revenues if we're not sure that we're absolutely going to get them. Let's not count on savings if we're not sure that we're going to get all of them. And so we've discounted an entire quarter in some cases of revenues that we may not receive or savings that we may not receive, and try to take a much more prudent approach to budgeting. One particular area that is going to be not only a priority for me personally, but I'm expecting for the Senate as well. And the Treasurer mentioned this, and I look forward to working with his office. They're ultimately responsible for the mechanics of debt, but it's debt. We have significant challenges. We all know what they are. And as the Governor mentioned, projects are not only desires, but they're all very, very important. But we still don't have a comprehensive idea and understanding of what our total debt situation looks like. Before the holidays, I asked the Senate Fiscal Advisor and the Senate Fiscal Office, well before the holidays, to get me the information to figure out and try to get our arms around this whole debt discussion. As of this morning, I still didn't get the information, not because they didn't provide it to me, but they couldn't get it. And we're talking about, a month later. And we need to really look at this in a comprehensive way. As the Treasurer mentioned and testified to the other day, over 100 entities within the state of Rhode Island and local governments that have the ability to issue and authorize debt. In the last 24 months alone, the state has issued $452 million in new debt. When you talk about, which has been reported recently, the Narragansett Bay Commission, whatever toll or transportation policy we adopt, and the Turnpike and Bridge Authority, those three alone, we're talking about close to $1 billion in new debt. The Board of Education, specifically within higher ed, and we've continued to invest in higher ed, and I don't think that story has been told as much, but in the budget request, $536 million in additional borrowing that would be requested. Now, the board whittled that down to $416 million, but that's on top of the $175 that was already approved in the last two budget cycles. And so this is not in any way a judgment or intended to be a judgment on any particular proposal, on any particular project, on any particular entity, or quasi-public, because quite frankly, we've all voted for these things in the past because at the end of the day, they're all very good ideas, and not only good ideas, but also necessities given how long we have neglected some of our infrastructure and how long we haven't made important investments. But as the Governor mentioned, and as the Speaker as well, we need to have priorities. But in order for us to make prudent, informed, and educated decisions, we need to know what we're dealing with. We need to know what we're talking about. And that's not, the numbers I rattled off to you doesn't even include unfunded local pension and OPEB liabilities as well. So it's a significant problem that we need to, hopefully sooner rather than later, begin to have a frank, candid conversation about. And I look forward to, in the very near future, introducing legislation and continuing to work, as I said, with the Treasury, because they're ultimately responsible for the mechanics and some of the findings that they've already discovered. But we need to have a frank conversation about that, because if we don't, we will certainly imperil, in my opinion, the predictability of the future fiscal health of not only the state, but also our local governments and our quasi-publics as well. So I want to just close by saying it's been a pleasure to be here, to participate, to listen to you and also my colleagues in government here. And the Senate's door is always open, and on behalf of the Senate Finance Committee, our door is always open as well. We've been more than happy to get and solicit your input in the past, and we'll continue to do so in the future. So thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Senator DuPont, for your candid. I'll be very candid with you. I did not realize, both what the Treasurer and you had said, that there were over 100 entities out there issuing debt. I don't think most of the business community is aware of it either, so I think you've got good allies here. We want to thank Marie Ganem and the Senate President as well for their support of this event. It's January 6, 2017, in case anybody wanted to know. That's the next summit. In the meantime, we have a lot of work together to get things done and keep things in the right direction. Thank you, and drive safe. Have a great day.